This is the one we have been waiting for, folks. All Blacks up against Springboks, number one in the world against number two in the world. World champions against last World Cup's runners-up. Eden Park record on the line. Boks haven't been here since 2013 at this ground. And the teams are out. We are going to go through them. We're going to go through the stats and the predictions as normal. And you guys can let us know your thoughts. But the hype around this game is genuinely quite incredible. And we're in this kind of weird position where the question is kind of, are the All Blacks' backs going to click? Can the Boks get the best out of their forwards from the bench? Two questions that don't really fit with the teams that are playing, but that is the position we're in. The Rugby Championship's been great after two rounds. Everyone is at 1-1. The All Blacks are in first at the moment, but wins and losses, everyone's on the same 1-1. The Argentinians and Wallabies both fronted up in, game one for the Wallabies, game two for the Pumas, and gave both of these teams a bloody nose and maybe brought them down a peg because everyone was looking at this Eden Park game before the competition even started. But man, we're here and it's got a little bit of a different feel about it. Who's going to get it right? Razor's All Blacks or Rusty's Boks? High balls and discipline, you feel like, for the ABs are going to be key. And for the Boks, how well can they get their maul defense going? It's not something I ever would have thought I would be saying about a Bok team. Can they find the space and dominate the air against the All Blacks? If so, good things may happen. Let's start with the All Blacks because they named their team first in the afternoon or late morning here in NZ. Not too much in the way of surprising changes, but one man who has been dropped, and you got to feel like it's more or less directly down to that aerial battle the All Blacks failed to win last game, was Sevu Reece. He is out on the right wing, replaced by Imoni Narua. And when asked what Razor was expecting to seeing from him, he directly mentioned the aerial skills. So Narua is a cracking player. I, for one, am pleased to see him there. He's only had kind of a taste of action for the ABs. This is a big game to get back into the swing of things for the All Blacks, but fingers crossed that guy can catch some high balls because that's why he has been chosen. The front row of De Groot, Taylor, and Newell is the same. They dominated the Pumas in game one at scrum time. It was a bit tougher going in the second one. They'll be looking to turn the screws on the Bok pack, but easier said than done. Locks is a change. Scotty Barrett's obviously still there. He's been copping a bit of stick after the loss, but he was certainly tackling the house down in that second game against the Pumas. And Tupavai has shifted back into his more familiar locking spot, having played blindside flank for the last couple of games and also in the French series as well. They didn't really make the most of him as a ball carrier. He was a bit anonymous on the ball carry, at least against the Argentinians. He's a great lineout option. He's probably our best defensive lineout player if he's going to disrupt the Bok lineout, which has at times looked like it could be there for the odd pinch. Tupavai is your man to get that done. So hopefully they can get more involvements from him in the second row than in the back row. He's replaced by Simon Parker, who got his debut in that second game against the Pumas, shifts from 8 to 6. If you're a South Africa fan, never heard of Simon Parker. He had a cracking Super Rugby season, a pretty big dude. All Blacks list him as 197 centimeters, which is, he's taller than some locks. He's not as tall as the likes of Big Eben or Arches Neyman kind of thing, but he's a pretty big dude. Close to 120 kilos. So he is there to be that big physical presence in the back row to get those ball carries that we weren't seeing from Vai against the Pumas. So yeah, he was our top ball carrier in that loss to the Pumas. So he'll need to be backing up. It's only his second ever test though. But fingers crossed he has a good one. Ardie Savea in his 100th test is there at number 7. He is going to be a key man to try and shut down. If you're looking for basically all the kind of stats leaders from an All Blacks point of view, he is your guy this year. He's got more bloody run meters than any of our backs. That's just, he's Ardie Savea. He is just one of those kind of freak players. He's one of our top tacklers, top meter guy, top carrier. If you can keep him quiet, you'll be doing well because he is such a linchpin for the All Black side. And then Wallace Satitu, who hasn't really recaptured that form that got him Breakthrough Player of the Year last year. He's there at number 8 up from the bench. Remember, he has had kind of injury-plagued off-season and never really quite got back to 100%. But if there was a time to do it, this is the one. Number 9 has been the big question throughout the week for the All Blacks because our starting 3 halfbacks all injured. Roygaard was already ruled out prior, and likewise was Hotham. There was a sliver of hope that Ratsama might be fit. I was always pretty doubtful, and sure enough, those doubts were correct. Ratsama's not good to go with his rib injury. So Finlay Christie is there at number 9. If there's ever been a player in the last kind of couple of years to get as much stick from All Blacks fans as Finlay Christie, I'm not sure who else it would be. Christie's right up there. Maybe David Havili. I think Christie's maybe gotten more. He's not a popular guy among All Blacks fans, sometimes a bit unfairly. I think we're still partly living in the shadow of Aaron Smith, and we're partly living in like the emergence of Cam Roygaard. Finlay Christie, if he can box kick, make his tackles, and maybe even pinch something at the breakdown like he did against the Pumas, could have a useful outing. I mean, I didn't back him playing for the Blues, but he won a Super Rugby title with the Blues and played pretty well in a final against the Chiefs not that long ago. So the guy can turn it on. He's at Eden Park, and he's playing alongside Beauden Barrett, who plays with at club level. So if there's a time for the 9-10 combo to click for the ABs with Finlay Christie there, again, this is the one. The midfield of Geordie Barrett and Billy Proctor remains a bit of a question because it hasn't clicked the last 2 games. They've had very few meters on the ball carry, and they have been exposed at times defensively. So Geordie needs to recapture some of the form that he had with Leinster. I know Test match rugby is a different beast and the Springboks are a different beast again, but yeah, those guys you feel like could use a big game. Likewise, Rico Ioane. He's not had much of an impact on the left wing since switching there from the midfield. He could probably use a big game as well, especially with Caleb Clark being available next week. And Mori Narawa, like I mentioned, with his aerial game is what he's being predicted to be picked for as they're on the right, and then Will Jordan could also use a better game at 15 in terms of his catching the high balls. There's no doubt about the guy on attack. He's the other guy alongside Adi Savia that if you can shut down, you can give the All Blacks a hard time. But that is the starting 15 for the ABs. Bench-wise, I feel like we've got a bit of a bomb squad of our own, man. Tokiaho, Williams, and Lomax, that is a hell of a front row to bring on. Lomax back fit. He's arguably our best tight head prop, but Manuel's been scrubbaging the house down as well. We've got 2 very good tight head props there. Samaiti Williams is another guy coming back from injury, maybe looked a little bit off the pace against Argentina, but he'll be a couple of weeks fitter now, a bit more match fit, having had that game against the Pumas. He's a big unit. And then Tokiaho's had 3 tries from the bench. The All Blacks maul has been an absolute weapon. Got us out of jail in that first game against the Pumas, to be fair, when the backline was not firing. So it's a very good front row. If they bring him on bomb squad style, they're going to cause some havoc. You got Fabian Holland there, who's likewise a bloody big unit, 2+ meter tall, bit of tall timber, can actually match some of the box locks for height. And then Duplessis Karifi, a little bit less so in terms of like the pure bomb squad size thing, but high work rate, tenacious, will get over the ball at the breakdown. Those are the forwards. 3 backs. Kyle Preston could get his debut if he comes on at number 9. Quinn Tupaya could potentially provide a bit of punch in the midfield if we are lacking in that area. And then DMAC is the utility guy who arguably had a bit of a kind of better control of the game than Bodie in that last loss to the Pumas. We'll see what kind of time he comes on, but certainly it is a big old pressure environment for all of these players. That is the All Blacks lineup. Remember, Tupulotu, Ratsima, Tavatava Nawai, Roygaard, Hotham, all these guys not available, and Lester Fainganuku, who could have been a bit of a left field pick. They opted not to pick him. I guess he's only just been parachuted into the squad, so maybe it would have been a bit too soon. But when the back line's failing to fire, us fans are going to look at a guy like Lester and think, man, could have been a good pick. For the Boks, they have picked it pretty steady, not wholesale changes, and they are also bolstered by the return of some guys who missed out on that second game, which was the one they won against the Wallabies. Willie LaRue being back at fullback. He's another one who, for a time, was kind of like Finlay Christie for the All Blacks. He was the guy that got all the negative attention directed at, but he's kind of gone past that period. He's going to be there as the second playmaker. That's absolutely why Villy is there. He maybe isn't as individually capable as some of the other Bok fullbacks in terms of breaking the line, busting tackles, but he is going to help pull the strings in the back line. That's why you play Villy Leroux. He's a veteran. He's going to be a cool head there at the back. If the All Blacks throw some high balls his way, maybe they get some pay as well. But yeah, Villy is going to be able to help unlock the Springbok backs, which have been looking pretty lethal thus far. Sia Kolisi is in there at number 8, but he's not captain. Apparently, Jean-Luc Dupria was penciled in for that number 8 jersey, but picked up a bit of a niggling injury, and they weren't sure if Kolisi was going to be fit. So he is there at number 8, but because Jesse Creel had already been named captain internally, they kept Creel as captain, so less disruption for the squad. And speaking of freak players, I was talking about Adi Savia. South Africa's got their own freak back in Pieter-Steph du Toit. You know, I mean that as the biggest kind of compliment, freak, because these guys both world players of the year in the past. And massive work rate, able to turn a game around almost individually. It's a tough game to be reliant on one player, rugby, but Savia and Pieter-Steph do have that kind of impact on these teams. If Pieter-Steph is just up off the line, getting in the face of either D-Mac or Bodie all day long, they could make, force mistakes and, catch the All Blacks behind the defensive line if they're able to get that going. The front row of Oxenchair, Malcolm Marx, and Thomas du Toit is unchanged. The scrum battle is going to be fantastic. It's going to be worth the price of admission. And there's a bit of rain forecast for Saturday, or I think before the game. So there might be a bit of wet on the field. If there are some knock-ons, it could be one of the decisive factors. Eben Etzebeth and Ruan Nokia is the lock-in duo, so Evans back up from the bench. They've been using him in a bit of that offloading game recently, which is maybe the reason Achia Snyman's not there. I'm a little bit surprised Achia is not in the 23, especially with South Africa going for a 5-3. I guess that costs Achia Snyman his spot. But as I said, Eben has been offloading like mad in the first 2 games, so maybe they feel like he partly fills that role that you can get from the big lock. Nokia will be busy around the paddock as well, and he's certainly a good line-out option. Van Staden is there at 6. Pieter-Steph and Kolisi, like I mentioned. So Van Staden's main thing just needs to keep the penalty count low. He conceded 5 in 2 games, which is too high. I know you're there in the number 6 jersey for South Africa. You need to be contesting the breakdown. You need to be making all those tackles, but you can't give away the dumb ones. So 5 and 2 is too many for Marco van Staden. He'll need to keep his nose clean, but overall, I think you'd be relatively happy with the 4 pack. Grant Williams and Hondre Pollard continue on at 9 and 10. Hondre, you feel like, is going to be given permission to pepper the All Blacks backfield with high balls because it's a known vulnerability. So why wouldn't you go for it? And then, as I said, you got Villy Leroux there at 15 to help with some of the playmaking stuff as that second playmaker. If Grant Williams gets into any space, if any All Blacks fans somehow haven't seen this guy in open space thus far, the dude is absolute lightning. You can't give him an inch because he will take a mile. Dealende and Creel is the midfield. There's no Esterhazen this week, so with all the possible permutations for Russie's Eden Park plans, you were thinking maybe Esterhazen in some kind of 7-1 split flanker play. Has not come to fruition, so it is the kind of tried and true of Dealende and Creel. Creel could move out to the wings, I suppose, if they bring on Ethan Hooker in the midfield at some point for his second cap from the bench. The wings, though, Colby shifts to the right, so he'll be up against Ioane, which is, you feel like, an area you should be going to in the air if you're South Africa. Kane Moody shifts to the left, had a few dropsies in the second game for the Boks. If he can get his hands on the pill, he goes up against Emori Narawa, who is not the most experienced All Blacks winger. He could expose him, but Narawa's a good player. I back him ahead of Reese. And, as I mentioned, Leroux's there at fullback. Bench-wise, Wessels, Fencer, and Lowe is not the most capped Bok kind of bomb squad bench that we've ever seen in the past, and it has been an area of concern a little bit in the July series, lacking a bit of that punch from the bench, the Boks, but they've also got Diaka and Quaka Smith there as well. It's only the 5 forwards on the bench, like I mentioned, which is, I don't know, I feel like it's not what I was imagining when I was imagining Russie's crazy plans, but he is one of the hardest guys to predict. Diaka is a classy operator, so he will certainly secure line-out ball if they are having any issues with that. Reinach, Sasha Feinberg, Ngomazulu, and Ethan Hooker, the back replacements. Reinach has been the tried and true back replacement for the last couple of games. Sasha, if he comes on, can fill many different roles with potentially Pollards if they're looking to unlock the back line further. And then Ethan Hooker, as I said, second test for him will be a big one because it's Eden Park, baby. Stats-wise for these teams, the All Blacks, I mean, the main area of concern for me is the lack in the last two games of the ability for the team to just bust the line. They had 3 clean breaks in 2 games. 3. For context, the Springboks had 18 against the Wallabies. I know different opponents, but 3. 1 in that loss, and it was a forward. It was Simon Parker. The All Blacks backline has not clicked in the last 2. It clicked in patches against the French, but this is different from the French team, which was, as I said, missing a lot of guys. And the penalty count, man, 10 plus penalties in each of their games, 5 yellow cards in 2 games, and they conceded 11 clean breaks against the Pumas. So there's some bad numbers there for the ABs. They need to keep 15 guys on the field and stop giving away silly penalties. But despite all that, I don't want to be a negative Nelly. The All Blacks are scoring tries. The Maul's getting going. Scored like 4 Maul tries against the Pumas. The Maul is a weapon for this All Blacks. I think they've scored 9 tries, 4 from the Maul. And the Boks have been a bit vulnerable at Maul time in July and against the Wallabies. They conceded a Maul try. So if the All Blacks can get that over them, it could be the way to win the game, man, especially if the ball is a bit wet. Even in that loss to Argentina, which was disappointing, still outscored the Argentinians by tries. So tries have still been coming. For the Boks, loads of clean breaks. No problems in that area. Very different, but fewer tries. So it's kind of the flip case from what the All Blacks have been getting. They also conceded 9 tries against the Wallabies, which is not something that the Boks would have expected at home. Unusual for the Boks. The Boks defense is usually a lot more stingy than that, and as I said, included at least 1 Maul try, which is becoming a little bit of a theme, especially when you consider how many tries the All Blacks have been scoring at Maul time. But the All Blacks, the Boks guys chasing high balls, like they're not, like Colby in particular, is not the biggest dude, but geez, he's a weapon in the air. If they can get that going, the All Blacks have been proven to have a bit of a chink in the armor there. Last 5 results, there's only 1 win for the ABs. It was in Auckland, but it wasn't Eden Park. That was Mount Smart Stadium back in 2023. That was 35-20. And then the 4 in a row results for the Boks at Twickenham, World Cup final, and then Joburg and Cape Town last year. So the average score is 23-18 across the last 5 in terms of the Boks having the advantage. The last time they played at Eden Park was way back in 2013. There were some guys playing in that game who are still involved in this one. Bodie came off the bench for the ABs, had to play the majority of the game with Dan Carter getting injured. Khaleesi came off the bench for the Boks. Eben started. Yeah, so some of these guys have played at Eden Park against each other before. 1937, the last time the Boks tasted victory at Eden Park. They also had a draw with the ABs in 1994, which is the same year the All Blacks last lost at Eden Park. The record is on the line. It's going to be a very, very tasty one, folks. Englishman Carl Dixon is the referee for this one. He can be a bit of a wild card, but the All Blacks have never lost a game when he's refereed. So maybe that's a good omen. I think the Boks have only lost 1. So he's probably not going to be the decisive factor. Knock on wood that he's not. Predictions-wise, the bookies are saying All Blacks by 5. And the Rugby Forecast algorithm is saying All Blacks by 2. If you're wondering why I'm wearing Springboks gears, I usually look at the predictions and pick whoever is the underdog's gear to wear. So because the Boks are predicted to be slight underdogs for this one, Bok gear is on. Whoever wins, I'll be wearing the winner's gear for the review. If you do want some gear, All Blacks style, check the All Blacks shop down in the description. They're an affiliate of the channel. And if you want to watch this magnificent game and you are in the US of A, check out Flow Sports. They're also an affiliate of the channel. They got this game. They got the Argentinians and Wallabies going head-to-head as well, plus a bunch of other rugby. So check them out if you're in the States. You guys let us know your thoughts on who is going to get it done. Will it be the Springboks wingers, the All Blacks Maul, or something else entirely? It is going to be massive. You guys take care. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, if you enjoyed the stats or predictions and that jazz. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.